What's good, Steeler Nation? My name is Jack Sperry, and this is Steelers Talk. Thanks for spending part of your Wednesday to talk some Steelers football with us. Today, we're talking all about the draft. Specifically, if the Steelers decided to tank the rest of the 2022 NFL season, which guys they could consider tanking for. It should be a very interesting episode. But before we get into my list today, go ahead and go in the comment section and let me know, should the Steelers tank the rest of this season? Type Y for yes or type N for no. Personally, I'm not a fan of tanking, right? We got a young quarterback. I think the Steelers should be trying to win football games, and at the end of the day, that's just not who the Steelers are. The Steelers are winners. We go out and try to win football games. So in my opinion, it's not a great idea, but if you think otherwise, go ahead and tell me in the comments section. Now, the first guy on my list, quite obviously, guys, Will Anderson Jr. If the Steelers are going to tank for anybody, it's going to be for this kid. He's massive, 243 pounds, 6'4", just rocked up, like built like a freaking freight train, man. Like he's a great run defender, great pass rusher, great speed rusher, and at his size, to be as quick as he is, you just don't see that very often. Now, is he a Myles Garrett or Chase Young type prospect? I don't hold him quite in that regard. I think those guys are kind of outliers when it comes to that edge position. But Will Anderson Jr., man, he's close. Like he's in that Aiden Hutchinson, probably a slightly above Aiden Hutchinson was last year, which is still very, very good. I think he'd be more than worth the #1 overall draft pick, at least in my opinion. And if the Steelers could go up and grab him in the top 5, whether by losing the rest of these games or potentially trading up, he could link up with TJ Watt, and they could be one of the best pass rush duos of the next decade, right? They could just dominate teams. The Steel Curtain would be reborn. I mean, you got Will Anderson Jr., this huge guy, great run stuffer, pass rusher, speed rusher off the edge, and then you also got TJ Watt, one of the best pass rushers of this generation. If you can bring these two together somehow, that's going to be something that's going to just terrify opposing offenses for years to come. And if the Steelers can make it happen, I think they absolutely should. #2 on my list is Jalen Carter, the defensive tackle out of Georgia. And like Will Anderson, Carter he might even be more of a physical freak, man. Like you watch his tape, he does stuff that you don't even think is human. Like this guy looks like a straight up alien on tape. 300 pounds, 6'3". This guy is a great run stuffer, great pass rusher from the interior. And if you know anything about teams with great interior pass rushers, Aaron Donald with the Rams, Grady Jarrett with Atlanta, DeForest Buckner with the Colts, these guys are game wreckers. Like they can just ruin a day for a quarterback. Jalen Carter, bringing him in along with Alex Highsmith, TJ Watt, this would be another move that would really solidify the Steelers' defensive line. We all know that the interior of the Steelers' defensive line definitely needs some help right now, and Carter would definitely bolster it heading into the 2023 season. All right, guys, let me know in the comments right now. Would you trade up for either Will Anderson or Jalen Carter if it costs 2 first-round picks? We have our quarterback, so we might not be needing that first-round draft pick, right? So type TU if you would trade up for one of these elite pass rushers, or type SP to stay put. This is the pinned comment on today's video. So whenever there's an ad break, guys, just go right down to the comment section and answer today's question. All right, now, #3 on the list is Peter Skarronsky, the offensive tackle coming out of Northwestern. Now, he's a really good player. Technically, like when it comes to technique and all these other sorts of things, he's fantastic. Body size, speed, athleticism, but he has short arms, right? For an offensive tackle in the National Football League, his arm length is usually not up to snuff, right? So we've seen some guys in prior drafts like Rashawn Slater, another Northwestern product, really turn into great left tackles in the NFL despite kind of shorter arms. So Skoronski is certainly not disqualified from becoming a left tackle in the National Football League, but his arm length could reduce him to being a guard next year or in the future. And, is drafting a guy that's going to turn into a guard really worth, a top 10, top 15 pick? That's going to be for NFL teams to decide. And the Steelers definitely need some protection, and your wallet needs some protection as well. And I've got you covered here with our sponsor here at Rocket Money. 80% of people have subscriptions that they absolutely forget about, and they don't even know that they're paying for. Maybe it's an Amazon Prime account you're not using, but let's be honest, you probably are. The Netflix account that you're not streaming and you're too busy with work or whatever. But I have an app that helps with me tremendously on this problem, and it's called Rocket Money, formerly known as Truebill. The app shows you all of your subscriptions in one place and then cancels for you whatever you don't still want. Rocket Money can even find subscriptions you didn't even know that you were paying for. You may even find out that you've been double charged for a subscription. To cancel a subscription, all you have to do is press cancel on the Rocket Money app, and Rocket Money takes care of the rest for you. Get rid of useless subscriptions with Rocket Money now. Go to rocketmoney.com/Steelers Talk to help out the channel and start saving yourself a bunch of money. I'm saving hundreds of dollars a month because personally, I forgot about a ton of subscriptions that I was paying for, and I was able to cancel all of those right away, and now I'm saving a bunch of money for all that Christmas shopping. If you want some extra money here, go to rocketmoney.com/Steelers Talk, once again to help out the channel, but also to help your pocketbook. All right, now let's get into my fourth name of the day, Kelly Ringo. Now, you guys know how I feel about Kelly Ringo, right? He is big. He is fast. He is aggressive. He is a great tackler in the run game, and he has Pittsburgh Steeler written all over him, in my opinion. At 6'2", 210 pounds, this guy might run a sub 4.4 40-yard dash at the combine or at his pro day. And that's insane. Like, that's going to be insane, man. And, you know, you bring him in, you know, he can match up against any receiver, a speed receiver, a big receiver like Julio Jones, right? There's nobody that's going to be able to have a matchup advantage on this guy. And yes, he's a little bit raw, right? He's had some bad moments of technique and over-aggressiveness on tape this year, but I mean, he's a kid. He's a college kid, and he has everything that you could possibly want in a Pittsburgh Steeler cornerback of the future. Number one cornerback, and that's exactly what the Steelers need right now. He would be a fantastic option. But if you don't like Kelly Ringo, maybe you would rather have Cam Smith out of South Carolina. Now, Smith isn't nearly as big or as strong as Kelly, but man, he is in high regard with some of the most smart and talented talent evaluators in the National Football League, right? Number one on Pro Football Focus's big board right now. He's the number 2 cornerback on the Draft Network's consensus big board. So the scouts really like this kid. He is athletic, he plays physical, and he plays extremely aggressively, which fits the Steelers' play style and scheme to a T. I think he's a great contributor in the run game as well. Solid tackler, has some whiffs here and there, but man, this guy has these South Carolina corners like J.C. Horn, right? These guys come in and they're ready to be number 1 corners in the National Football League from day one. I really like Cam Smith. He might have a little ways to go in terms of his discipline, but man, he has great instincts. He can play in man coverage. I think he has everything he needs to be a number 1 corner in this league as well. Now, next on my list here, another defensive tackle, Brian Breezy out of Clemson. Now, I think this is a fantastic fit for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Breezy, he's pretty much in the top 10 of just about everybody's big board right now. So he's, in my opinion, I think he's probably going to be potentially a top 10 pick, but probably more in that top 15 range. So I'm not sure if the Steelers will necessarily have to tank to potentially get this guy. And then when it comes to Breezy, he's definitely going to be somebody that needs to go to a one-gap run defense. And what that means, guys, for a defense is that their defensive tackles, they attack the football. Some teams like to do two-gapping, which is essentially just holding the blocks. The Steelers like to attack running backs with their defensive tackles. Brian Breezy is one of the best players in the country at doing that. And I think, you know, in my opinion, a team that drafts Brian Breezy needs to be that one-gap defense, and the Steelers are that. So I think he's a fantastic fit for the Pittsburgh Steelers moving forward. And I really think that he could be a really good player for the black and gold to go alongside on the other side there of Cameron Hayward. He's also a pretty decent pass rusher from the interior as well. Not as athletic or as strong or as freakish as, say, a Jalen Carter, but he would certainly be a solid player for the Pittsburgh Steelers, in my opinion. Next on my list here, Christian Gonzalez, the cornerback out of Oregon. Now, I am very impressed with this guy. When I watch this kid on film, he is just smooth, man. He is the #1 cornerback on the Draft Network's consensus big board right now. And, you know, he's only number 5 on PFF's big board, but in my opinion, he is probably the most technically sound cornerback in this year's draft class. Now, I think PFF has him a bit lower because of his physicals, right? He's not as strong as like a Kelly Ringo or Joey Porter Jr., some of these other really big physical guys, but he has all of the measurables. Like he's got really long arms, pretty decent ball skills, right? He just needs to put on a little bit of muscle. He's still kind of he's not in his man body yet. And, you know, I really think that once he gets to the pro level, the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be able to get him into his man body. And then when you put into account his technicality, you know, the fluidity and the athleticism that he plays with. I mean, this guy has #1 corner written all over him as well. He just needs to grow and get stronger a little bit, but he's also a very willing participant in the run game as well. And I think that he's right up there with Cam Smith and Kelly Ringo for the best cornerback in this draft class. I think that if he was the first cornerback taken, I wouldn't bat an eye. I think he's going to be a really good player at the next level. All right, guys, now it's your turn to get in the comments and tell me which cornerback you would like the Pittsburgh Steelers to take in round 1 if they take a cornerback. Would you like Kelly Ringo? Type KR if you want him, Cam Smith, CS, or Christian Gonzalez, CG. All right, now, Jackson Smith and Jigba. I wanted to throw in a wide receiver here because I wanted to pose this question. Who's going to be the slot receiver for the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2023? Right now, Steven Sims is that main slot guy. And then, you know, we do have Calvin Austin III on the roster, but he's a bit smaller. You know, some of these smaller receivers haven't really panned out lately in the NFL. I'm still a Calvin Austin believer, but it's still a possibility that the Steelers go and target a slot receiver. Now, Jackson Smith and Jigba, he can do it all. He can play outside. He can play inside. He's going to be able to do a lot of things in the National Football League, in my opinion. I mean, he is just a freak. He runs great routes, great hands. He is really, really a good player, man. And I think that if he came to the black and gold and matched up with Deontay Johnson and George Pickens, I think that this guy has a chance to be a fantastic player in the National Football League, and the Steelers could have one of the best receiving corps in the league if they brought him in. Now, I think in order for this move to be made, you need to sign an offensive tackle in free agency, probably have to get a defensive tackle in free agency as well. You got to make sure you don't have any other pressing needs if you're going to take a receiver in the first round. But if the Steelers take care of those things in free agency, I could totally see them going and get this kid out of Ohio State. And right now, I really think that it depends on how Pittsburgh sees Calvin Austin III, how they feel about him. How is he looking in practice? You know, is he running good routes? Is he developing a chemistry with Kenny Pickett? If he's doing all these things, maybe they brush off the slot receiver for another season. But I think at this point, with the injury to Calvin Austin III, a speed guy having a foot injury, it's definitely a possibility the black and gold goes out and get a slot receiver in the draft this year. And then it also depends on how the Steelers handle free agency, right? If they get like an Isaiah Wynn at left tackle, maybe you don't have to spend that first-round pick on a left tackle. Maybe if you go out and get a cornerback, maybe you don't need to draft a cornerback. You know, it depends on how many guys and what guys the Steelers get in free agency. And, you know, if there's not that many holes left to fill, maybe they go ahead and pull the trigger for the slot receiver. All right, guys, let me know in the comment section right now, draft or pass. Would you draft a slot receiver, or would you roll with Calvin Austin III for the 2023 season? Let me know in the comments. Let's take a look one more time at all the players on my list for the Steelers to tank for if they wanted to tank. A pretty solid list, if I do say so myself. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section, what you guys think of my list, and whether or not you think the Steelers should, in fact, tank the rest of the season. But before we go here, I want to hear from you. Tell me who you want the Steelers to draft in the comments section below. If it was someone on today's list, great. If it's somebody that wasn't on the list, fantastic as well. I want to hear from you guys, and also make sure to subscribe to the channel here at Steelers Talk by Chat Sports. We provide daily Steelers news and rumors content. We're going to be doing a bunch of this kind of draft stuff. We're going to be doing a mock draft next week. We got a bunch of free agency coverage coming up during the offseason as well, and then of course the in-season coverage is fantastic. All right, guys. My name is Jack Sperry. I appreciate the heck out of you, Steeler Nation, and until next time, Yinzers, I appreciate you guys. See you next time.